that control is so easily taken away.
Hello, Jennifer. It's nice to see you again.
Nice to see
Congratulations.
you as well.
Congratulations on the release of your film, This Tempting Madness. So, I previously saw this film at a film festival, and now I've been
Mhm.
able to rewatch it. One of the things that has drawn a lot of attention to the film is the fact that Simone Ashley is the star. Would you be willing to share again about your open-minded, inclusive approach to casting the lead role of Mia?
Yeah, of course. So this is a film that's inspired by a true story that happened to a very close friend of mine. And, when you're looking at casting the role, when you have someone in your life that you know so closely and that you love so much, there isn't anyone that is really just like them, right? So it's not like you say, oh, I want this person because they're just like them. No. For me, it became clear I wanted to find someone that captured her energy. And in this film, we have a situation where the character at the beginning of the film is immediately um, in a horrific incident that gives her brain damage. So I really wanted someone that could capture the energy of what she was like before the incident and then work us towards regaining that strength. And when we met with Simone, and we had looked at a whole wide range and diverse range of people. And when we met with Simone, Simone had a very clear perspective that she wanted to show the strength of Mia and show Mia's resilience in coming back from this scenario. And Andrew, my co-writer and husband, and I had always talked about how we didn't want this to be a film about falling. We wanted it to be a film about rising, like a phoenix rising from the ashes. And so, with that, when we met with Simone and when she had this really determined strength to bring to it, but also, a sensitivity to that this is a real person and a real life thing, it became clear that she was the person we wanted to work with.
The orange dress that she's wearing from the
Yeah.
beginning of the film and then repeatedly throughout, we cut
Mhm.
back to various moments where she's in that dress. It looks incredible on her, and it's a very iconic piece of imagery for the film in its
Yeah.
entirety. How did you decide on that dress, and what was the process for either finding it or putting it together?
Yeah, so that's a dress that we actually had custom made. We always knew, going back to the motif of the phoenix and her being a phoenix rising from the ashes, we always knew we wanted it to be in this sort of red orange spectrum. And just depending on who we cast, we wanted it to be the right color for them. And so when we brought Simone on, I asked her if she was comfortable with a fiery orange, and she was like, oh, yeah, I'm all in with that. So we did some color tests with different fabrics to see the exact right shade, which would look the best. And with those color tests, that vibrant, fiery orange is what we landed on. And to really pull out the movement of the dress, we took that fiery orange as like the base color, but we wanted it to be an ombre. So we had it custom dyed so that it would have different layers of color within it. And then we specifically designed the skirt so that it had multiple layers and that it was cut in a way. I'm a ballet dancer, so I'm really specific about how things are cut to see how they move with the body. And so, because she's falling in this dress, it was really important to me how the plume of the dress would come up, particularly to sort of give this feeling of wings. And so we cut the skirt in a classic dance ballet way so that it would actually get that plume and that beautiful movement.
One of the most diabolical details of this film is the audio design, where we can hear Mia's injuries throughout. Things like being able to hear the screws in her jaw clicking. How did
Mm,
you conceive
mm.
that idea? And then how did you go about prepping to get the shots that you were going to need as the visual backdrop for those moments?
Her jaw shattered early in the film. And that was such a horrifically painful process and one of the hardest things for her to recover from. And it's also just the kind of thing that you look at her and you can't see it. And so it became really important that we find a way to make people feel it when you can't really see it. It's not like, being able to cut an arm open and see the insides with the muscles. Like you can't, it's just we had to use all the tools that we had, and audio became so important for that because of capturing the internal mental feeling of it. Also, I mean, I had a lot of oral surgeries as a kid, so I'm also no stranger to just various weird jaw sounds and things of that nature. So I had really specific ideas in my head about how different things sound and clicked. And to be clear, I did not go through anything nearly as painful as Mia did in this story. But it's something that I'm very familiar with. And so we worked with the sound designer for a long time on it. It was like, particularly the grinding. There are a lot of things where we would come up with a sound and then we'd bring it into the booth and we'd be like, it's not quite right. And then both he and I would go home and just try different things and record it with our phone and like layer it. And I don't know. I mean, I think we probably went through 25 different homemade Foley sessions to come up with something good. And, Trevor Gates, our sound designer, eventually found that thing that was layered just right to really in there.
I was rewatching the film on a press screener shortly before sitting
Uh-huh.
down to do this interview with you, and I was
Yeah.
noticing how some of the domestic mystery elements of the story felt reminiscent of What Lies Beneath. And
Uh-huh.
and shortly after I had that thought, it cut to the part of the film where she's going over her memories while in a bath. And I went, ooh, okay, that's some weird alignment right there. Were there any particular works of fiction that helped to inspire your storytelling, be it narratively or visually?
Yeah, no, I mean that's an interesting reference. Because I think What Lies Beneath is a remake of a Hitchcock film. If I'm not mistaken. But we did look at Vertigo, Hitchcock's Vertigo, which also has a really punchy color palette like we do, and it deals with psychological themes in the same way. We also looked at, a lot of stuff by Stanley Kubrick that are more psychological things, particularly when looking at how we're going to capture things with certain lenses for specific moments. With that, we looked at The Shining, Full Metal Jacket, which is like a totally different kind of movie, but still it has certain elements that are just like parsed out that we wanted to look at. And then also, classic psychological horrors that are more new in the realm of like Black Swan. One of the really random ones that we looked at was Arrival, which is 100% different, but a beautiful film. But the way that they work with time transition there was really inspiring. And I thought that was like a cool approach.
The timing of us doing this conversation is interesting because you and I first met a couple of months ago, and now when we're having this conversation, there's a lot of chatter industry-wise and amongst film fans about films like Obsession and
Yeah.
Backrooms. So there's a lot of conversations being had about the importance of independent filmmaking. What would you say are the best aspects of independent filmmaking?
I think independent filmmaking is so necessary because you have more opportunity to experiment. When you have a studio out of necessity, it's a huge investment. And so because it's a huge investment, it's harder to take a big swing and it's harder to take risks because you want to hit certain beats. And then the problem with that is on one level, the audience gets really bored, right? Because they know what to expect. But on the other hand, there is something beautiful about that because you kind of know you want to find something, some cadence to grip onto, and so that find things to expect. But I think that independent filmmaking just allows you to sort of get in and try things. Like if you look at some of the best filmmakers that are legends now, they had so many opportunities to shoot small films before they ever did their big films. And they just made a lot of things and took a lot of swings, a lot that worked and a lot that didn't. And I think that as a filmmaker, that's so important if you want to do something new and exciting. That is something that happens with independent filmmaking that is great and important. And especially 'cause in a marketplace where there are more and more big movies being made, but not a lot of smaller niche movies. And, I personally have a very broad taste in movies. So I like to see all kinds of different things. And I think that's where independent filmmaking is important and exciting, and just sort of having the opportunity to not just give new voices a shot, but also to give new voices a chance to play.
When you have a story with so many elements of mystery and disjointed memories, how
Yeah.
did you organize your list of what needs to be filmed and how you want those pieces to be assembled?
The reality is, when my friend's memories were coming back, she didn't remember everything all at once. Her brain only allowed her to remember certain things at certain times. And so trying to put those back together, there are certain times where, this happened over the course of over a year of recovery. And there were, throughout that time, those moments where you're like, oh, whoa, because you come to live in this reality where things are, you kind of accept the oddity of the reality you're in, and then that, as weird as it is, it's normal to you. But then even in that, there are the moments where you're yet again shocked and taken aback. And I think one of those that to talk about is the scene with Mia and her mother, where her mother is talking about seeing the fortune teller and this fortune teller sharing the vision. And that is something that actually happened. That's not something we made up. That was one of those things that it was a conversation I had with Mia saying, oh, I went here with my mom today. And to me, that was just wild that that happened because this was someone that didn't know. She had no concept before. And I don't know, they're just like those moments that sort of take you out. And so you sort of, as a writer, you sort of note them in your brain as like, these are key pivotal things, and these are key pivotal things that we'll want to hang the story around.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations again on the
Thank
film.
you.
And thank you for casting Simone because a lot of us who have followed Bridgerton very closely, we were
Yeah,
so impressed with her work on that show and we were so excited to see
yeah,
her do more things. And we just
yeah.
feel like we want her to be doing more like varied work. And you're one of
I
the people that
know.
has given her the platform to do that. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure.